The entirety of this video contains major spoilers to the quest mod Vigilant. If you're considering playing the mod yourself and don't want any aspect of the story to be spoiled, click away now. To call Vigilant a simple quest mod is a steep understatement. It's more of a full-sized DLC with the overarching questline with multiple endings, new locations, weapons, armors, enemies and spells. In Vigilant, you'll be recruited into the organization known as Vigilance of Stendarr, a Daedra fighting faction that ultimately tries to take you down to the dark path of corruption. This mod adds hours upon hours of playtime as it's split into 4 chapters, with the last one being the largest and most detailed, in which you're violently thrown into Coldharbour, the realm of Molag Bal. The final act feels like the actual meat of the mod, with the 3 acts before it just being a prologue to it, and that is where Vigilant truly shines. The mod is heavily based on the established lore of the Elder Scrolls, but it also takes some creative liberties at times. To play Vigilant, you don't necessarily need to be a lore master, but it makes the experience a bit easier, as the story can be heavy for those who are new to the world. During this video, I'll do my best to explain the story in an accessible way for both new and old fans. There's also a lot of space for interpretation, so don't hesitate to leave a comment if you see some aspect of the story in another way. I would love to hear your takes. The gameplay of the mod is heavily inspired by Dark Souls. It is very much apparent in Acts 2 and 4, where you're thrown into an environment and have to fight your way through it. I won't go into detail about the bosses or their mechanics or any loot you can find and so forth, as the emphasis of this video is on the story. The mood of Vigilant is most of all dark and hopeless. It may be even depressing at times. Contrasting Skyrim, the setting has a clear emphasis on the somber atmosphere, and it's very hard to escape until you finish playing the mod. I knew this beforehand and tried to combat it by installing Khajiit Will Follow and recruiting Nanak with me on this journey. It was a great choice in the beginning. Vigilant by Vicn is an incredible project by an incredible modder, and to experience everything as I did, I have linked additional mods down below to further enhance the mod. That includes an English translation by ILR and a variety of talented voice actors, as well as some retextures to make the mod feel modern, as it is not exactly brand new. I also highly recommend installing Khajiit Will Follow and taking one of the cats with you to this journey, as it's a seamless experience, like these NPCs are a part of the mod from the beginning. In this video, we'll play through the whole of the Vigilant questline. I'll try to understand and analyze the story to the best of my ability, and together, let's enjoy the peak of Skyrim modding. This is a long and winding journey, and I hope you stay with me until the very end. Let's not waste any more time and finally start our adventure. Act 1. The Summoner. The first act of Vigilant is a thorough introduction to this world of Daedra hunters, their way of life, and the hard decisions you have to make sometimes as a champion of Stendarr. The first quest begins when we enter the Wind Peak Inn in Dawnstar, and even before getting an ale, a strange man called Alzano bluntly approaches us with the intention of recruiting us to the Vigilance of Stendarr. Before we take up on his offer, I think it's relevant to mention that in Dawnstar, you can also find the Vigilant's base of operations in Skyrim. In the vanilla game, these holy warriors of Stendarr reside in the Hall of the Vigilant, and they offer healing services and are dedicated to wipe out Daedra. The hall gets later destroyed by vampires, and with it falls most of the vigilants in the province, including Keeper Corset, their leader in Skyrim. Now, if we accept this job offer, Nanak will step us aside to express his caution about joining this guild.
It is not a duty to be taken lightly, for any number of reasons. Well, number one, they tend to die off in droves, devoured by...
This occupation is a dangerous one for many reasons, as it might harm you physically and mentally, but there are also the moral implications of killing the deemed monsters. After the talk, we are guided to the Temple of Stendarr, also located in the Pale near Dawnstar in a new custom location, the Stone Ravine. The temple is a castle protected by the mountains, and there is this marble statue depicting Stendarr blessing the castle with his presence. Stendarr is one of the Tamrielic deities, the god of mercy, charity, well-earned luck and justice.
Ah, so you're the novice Altana recruited. Yes, I like the look in your eyes.
In the castle, we'll get introduced to the keeper of the temple, Thorondir, and get the chance to explore the place on our own.
On the second floor on the left is a dining room. Admittedly, the food there is not splendid, but it will satisfy your hunger.
Nanak runs to the library where he finds some rare books, the contents of which make him rather uneasy.
And much of what he writes is so horrendous that either he was not of sound mind, or...
After getting familiar with the temple, our new friend Altano has the first assignment for us as vigilants. We need to track down a vampire that has already claimed the lives of 5 men in Whiterun.
There is no connection of magical nature between them. All I can say is that they were all male.
In the bannered Mare Inn, we can find a strange lady dressed in red in one of the rooms, selling her sweet rolls at night.
Would you like my sweet rolls?
This woman, Lucine, then proceeds to transform into a monster, making it clear as day who was behind all these victims and how they met their end by this vampire in disguise. After ending this horror, we can loot her red outfit, which I think looks pretty cool, and a curious red stone piece.
I'm beginning to think that woman never had any sweet rolls at all. Misleading.
In the tavern, we can also meet a Khajiit called Giovanni. He's in Skyrim looking for a countryman of his, Marceau, who has done something bad, but he couldn't quite explain what. Keep him in mind, as the next time we meet him, we'll shed more light into his story. Soon after slaying the vampire Lucine, we'll get information about a nearby Daedra and his summoner that we must hurry to seize.
That must be the house up ahead. Be ready for anything.
In the Tundra abandoned homestead, we'll battle Vernacus, but the woman who summoned him has already fled the scene. After the fight, Nanak tells us more about Vernacus, who he has read about, as it seems this was indeed the same Dromora from the book. We return to Vigilant Altano back in the tavern, where he has new information about the Daedra, this time in Windhelm. How the heck does he get this information so fast from the other side of the province? In any case, we'll travel to the Candlehearth Hall, where a frantic barmaid tells us about another Dromora being summoned in one of the rooms, again by a mysterious woman.
Hey, get up!
Just 5 more minutes. Go away.
What the? Well, he doesn't seem very dangerous.
Don't look at me. This isn't quite what I was expecting.
Unlike Vernacus, this drunken Daedra is just sleeping on the floor, and so Altano leaves it to us to dispose of. With enough levels in conjuration or sword skills, we can banish him back to Oblivion.
To be clear, I didn't just hallucinate all of that, right?
Up until this point, none of the quests really made you think twice about erasing these threats, but that changes in the next assignment. In Kyne's Grove nearby, there is a sinister man, Balor, with an eye that makes anyone go insane when looking at it. Altano sends us on our way to investigate, but we soon find out that this man is not a risk, as he keeps the eye hidden behind a bandage and doesn't want to harm anyone.
No, thank you. I don't want to die. I can just cover it up with this bandage and everything will be fine.
Regardless, we must slay him in the name of Stendarr, as Altano gives us the ultimatum. If we don't kill him, we can't be a Vigilant anymore.
What do you think will happen if that man loses control of his eye? Many people will suffer. Don't.
So, of course, we do what he says, even if it feels wrong. This is just one of the first quests of the first act of the story, and we're already going against our moral compass. The next quest starts at Stendarr's Beacon, a small Vigilant home base in Riften. This is where we meet Jacob for the first time. He's an elder Vigilant, the one who recruited Alzano to the Order years ago. Jacob has caught track of the female summoner we have been chasing all around Skyrim, and this leads us to Riften to investigate further. Another Daedra has been summoned in the inn, which we also have to send back to Oblivion.
Where is your summoner? Tell us, and we'll grant you a swift death.
Death? A mortal killing an immortal Daedra? You must be joking.
To add to the injury, he's been eating the whole tavern empty, which we then have to pay back to the barkeep. Who knew being a Vigilant is so expensive?
All my food completely gone. Show me some coin.
At this point of the quest, I can't deny that I started feeling a bit annoyed for having to travel back and forth repeatedly as we returned to Stendarr's Beacon.
Yes, we chased her down into the Ratway, but couldn't catch her. She has a bodyguard clad in ebony armor.
We hear that Jacob had been chasing the summoner through Ratway, but she got away again. Now he sends us there, as there is some evidence of a Daedra summoning ritual happening. In the sewers, the ritual is being conducted by none other than Giovanni, the Khajiit we met at the Bannered Mare earlier.
I am right behind you.
For Campanera. His precious Campanera, where is she? Giovanni tried with sweet skooma and liver of a skeever.
Giovanni is acting strangely, rambling, admitting that he tried and failed to summon a Daedra with sweet skooma and skeever's liver with the guidance of a shiny woman. He wants to try the summoning again with our liver instead, so we defend ourselves until we fall into a dream-like flashback, taking the place of Giovanni.
Giovanni, wake up, Giovanni. It is morning. This one made your favorite tomato soup today. It will get cold if you do not eat it quickly. Are you still asleep? You said you will stop skooma. You promised. Enough. Soup is getting cold.
Pretty pelt. Such a pretty pelt. So very, very pretty. It is Campanerar. Precious Campanerar. Marso and Campanerar will be together soon.
In these memories, we learn that he was married to a sweet Khajiit called Campanera, but she was brutally flayed by jealous Marso, the person Giovanni was looking for in Whiterun. Marso was so jealous and enraged, he killed Campanera and made a pelt of her fur to keep him always warm. This part of the storyline is truly blood-curdling, and even while fighting this emerged monster in the vision, I kept thinking about Campanera's horrifying fate. Waking up, we're full of determination to find Marso, make him pay for what he's done, and reunite the lovers by bringing Campanera's pelt to Giovanni's remains. Even if we're not far along to the quest, it has been already a heavy journey, and I feel like I couldn't do it without Nanak at this point, as he shares these feelings with me.
By the twin moons, what has happened?
When we again return to the beacon, we are met with a grim sight. Jacob has gone missing, there are corpses of vigilants everywhere, and an armor-clad man called Taranis threatening to kill us if we don't walk away right now.
Then I will cut you down like all the others. If you don't want to die, leave. Leave! I am sure you have someone who waits for your safe return.
He claims that he's only doing his job, protecting the summoner as her mercenary. There's no other way to solve this matter than to fight him, which is regrettable, especially afterwards when we read his letters from his wife and daughter. Down in the basement, we find a very distressed and injured Jacob, who is somehow still alive even though everyone else is gone.
We were attacked by the summoner. Everyone is dead but me. There is an ancient altar of Molag Bal under the beacon. She's trying to do something terrible. We must stop her.
We find out that deep underground under Stendarr's beacon, there is an altar of Molag Bal, where the summoner lady, Bal her name, has headed to summon this Daedric Prince of Domination, the Lord of Corruption. In the tunnels, Jacob gets tormented by guilt and sees visions of people in front of him.
It wasn't me. I'm not responsible for your death. Please, leave me alone.
We find out that he has been corrupted by Molag Bal, like many vigilants before him.
I'm one of them. I was dying and he appeared to me and offered to heal me in exchange for my wife's soul.
He has committed atrocious deeds in his name, which he sincerely regrets. One of them being that he exchanged his life for his wife's, Rael's, soul. In the altar room, we finally meet the summoner Bal, who has been causing great havoc around Skyrim.
What's the matter, Jacob?
I'm here to make up for my crimes. No, Rael, I'm here to save you.
This woman is no one else than Rael herself, Jacob's wife, who was visited by a Molag Bal follower and ordered her to spread the seeds of discord in the land. We stop the summoning ritual by defeating the summoner Bal/Rael and her to Dromora, and afterwards she appears in a spirit form to comfort her husband Jacob, and together they cross over to the other side.
Why are you yelling? Did you have a nightmare?
Yes. I thought I've lost you. I'll never leave you alone again.
Her journal sheds light on all the evil she committed while under Molag Bal's influence, and those things make her fate seem deserved. But on the other hand, if Jacob was brave enough to face death, she could have lived a peaceful, albeit sorrowful life without her husband. Jacob was Altano's trusted mentor, but he doesn't seem too fazed with all this. He just wants us to give him the mace of Molag Bal Rael had in her possession. It does seem strange, as they were close and now he just shoos us on our way to the next task, that is hunting down some witches in the rift.
Witches are a serious threat in Skyrim. Give them the mercy of Stendarr.
So we have no other choice than to leave Altano at the altar and head to Ivarstead, where these supposed witches are residing. The first thing we see at this place is a body of a witch hunter, wearing curious clothes and wielding a curious weapon. A gun, in fact. I, of course, loot all of this in excitement. I mean, I've never had a gun in this game.
Something about all of this seems off, don't you think? Between the things Altano said to shoo us out of the altar after killing Bal.
Before stepping inside the hut, Nanak has things to say. He questions Altano's motives on sending us here, as there is no opposition to speak of for us. No familiars, no traps, no nothing. Together we decide to go in and actually talk to these witches to get some extra information before we decide on what to do as a Vigilant of Stendarr.
Oh, who are you? Oh, please leave.
In the shack, we'll find two people sleeping, Karin and her daughter Lillian, living in this place, brewing medicine for the cursed husband and father, Taranis. I remembered these names straight away. In the inventory of the Summoner's Mercenary, there were 2 heartfelt letters from these 2 people. This already swayed my emotions to not kill them no matter what, even if it meant I couldn't be a Vigilant anymore. So here lies the first real choice of the questline. Either we do as we have been instructed and kill the so-called witches, or we go back to Altano empty-handed. If we go back without completing the task, Altano insists on us going back to kill them until it escalates into a fight.
Only know whether they are witches or not when they're dead. Go, now, and kill them! Wrong. Why now? Haven't you killed in cold blood before? It's no different now. Just do as I say, and kill them in the name of Stendarr. I see. You're adamant about this.
You're gonna die today.
He'll transform into a monstrous creature, the ugly one, and after defeating him, something weird happens. Karine the witch walks in and tells us she knows what we did to her husband, Taranis. Now we must defeat her in a battle, and afterwards she swears she'll get her revenge later. This route of the quest earns us karma, which is a sort of a point system that decides the outcome of the ending of the whole story. Okay, before proceeding, let's check out the other routes this quest can go. Instead of sparing the witches, if we kill these two people at the shack, we'll lose karma. When walking out of the building after the deed, Nanak is desperately ashamed of these actions, but he's committed to us, so he won't walk away, even if what we did was wrong. There is now also the real witch outside, Rita, the GLENMORIL witch, who offered the family the safety of the house, but was definitely planning to slay them later.
They were driven from their home because of a cursed sword. Cruel, right? So, the kindly witch decided to help them with this shelter until they get rid of the curse.
This character is so interesting, as she's the sister of Iverstead madman Narfi, who supposedly took up an offer from Molag Bal and is now this creature. After this, a new quest starts, the Endless Fall. We go back to the temple where Altano has summoned a Daedra and wiped out everyone, even the keeper Thorondir. Only Gwyneth, the librarian, has survived, and Nanak makes sure that she's doing alright.
I couldn't do anything. I saw that Daedra tearing Thorondir and others apart like it was nothing.
Gwyneth, is there anything I can do to help?
Let me rest.
The quest takes us back to Stendarr's beacon, where, blinded by the maze, Altano is attempting to finish what Rael begun, to summon Molag Bal himself. Before entering the altar, we meet the spirits of everyone we know in Act 1, just like Jacob did earlier. The little girl, Lillian, her cursed mercenary father, Taranis.
You are pathetic. I told you to stop, to go away. Why didn't you do so?
Balor, the man with the cursed eye, and Karine.
Give her back! Please, give me my daughter back!
There's also Marceau, who thinks we're not so different from each other, and the sweet Giovanni, who thanks us for helping him reuniting with his wife, and gives his blessing to stop and rest if we need it.
If you are disgusted with your duty, abandon it. Giovanni would not blame you. Nobody would blame you.
Finally, Jacob appears. He, on the other hand, pushes us forward with the strength of Stendarr.
Then don't look back. Push forward without hesitation.
At the altar, Altano succeeds to summon Molag Bal in his draconic form, who then demands us to surrender to him.
Child of Stendarr, kneel before me and obey. Surrender your soul to me. Do this, and I promise you a swift death.
Of course, we won't do that, not today, so the only real choice is to fight him.
Mortal, you dare to turn down my merciful offer.
After defeating him for now, Altano, barely alive, reveals he submitted to the Daedric Prince after our battle with the Summoner Woman.
After the battle with Bal, I heard a voice whispering to me. So sweet. I couldn't help but obey. Thank you.
Child of Stendarr, I will be watching you, always. If even a spot of corruption touches your soul, the gates to my realm will open wide for you.
We forgive him, destroy the cursed maze, listen to Molag Bal's monologue, and return to the temple, which ends this first act. There's also the neutral way to go about this quest. When confronting Altano, let him hit you unconscious.
You will kill these witches, and you will do so of your own free will.
You then wake up from the cottage to the grim sight of you having killed the so-called witches under Altano's influence against your own will. After this, the quest proceeds to go the same route as choosing to end the lives of these people in the game, but you won't lose karma. Before starting the second act, there's also the option to go back to the witch's pond and deal with Rada the witch one way or another. There's a cool boss battle where she summons a bunch of ads and taunts you.
If not for you, this family would still be alive. They could have solved this curse and lived happily in their hometown in High Rock.
But you can also show her mercy, which might lead to some unfortunate consequences. Sometimes it's better to be ruthless. When we look back at Act 1, there are a few things that need to be mentioned before continuing forward. First off, from the enemies of this chapter, we can loot pieces of red stone. These stones are not worth much, they don't do anything, but they do seem to serve as a symbol of being corrupted by Molag Bal. The name Molag Bal actually translates to Firestone in the ancient language of Nirn. The thief Balor, who I hesitated to kill, also had one in his possession. I think that's the same stone he had in his eye, which makes me think that ending him could have been the right choice after all, as a Vigilant of Stendarr. When Altano dies at the end, he's the only one who doesn't have a red stone, even though he also was corrupted by Molag Bal in the end. I find his journal curious as well. He had lost his memory completely from the time before Jacob initiated him to the Order, and even got his name from him. He's an interesting character, and we'll surely learn more about him later. Act 2. The Blood Matron. In the beginning of Act 2, we're alone in the Temple of Stendarr, either because everyone's left to destroy the altar at the beacon, or because everyone's been killed off by Altano. Outside the castle, we can find a Windhelm guard who has come here to seek help from the Vigilants, as some oddities have been happening in the city.
Prisoners in Windhelm keep disappearing from their cells. We want you to investigate this case for us.
By talking to the steward in the Palace of the Kings, we learn that prisoners and guards have gone missing from the prison dungeon. As a Vigilant, it's our duty to go investigate the scene of the crimes. In one of the dark prison cells, behind the curtain, we'll find a spooky, blood-stained statue depicting a woman with a dagger pierced through her chest.
I would be lying if I said the mere sight of it didn't give me shivers down my spine. That statue holds a secret, but I'm not sure of what it is as of yet.
We leave this eerie thing out here to investigate more, as we learn that these disappearances have happened earlier, and we need to find a certain history book to read more about it. We find out that in the same dungeons, there was a vampire wreaking havoc 20 years ago, and that the statue of the maiden was the source of these attacks. There's actually a hidden door behind the statue, which can only be opened with vampire blood. We learn that the Vigilants went to help, but the door sealed itself shut, and nearly all of them perished in the tunnels. This book also sheds more light on Jacob's past. He was one of those Vigilants and the only one who survived. And as we now know, he only survived because he made a deal with Molag Bal to save him in exchange for his wife's soul, which is the reason why the entirety of Act 1 happened in the first place.
Vampires. Horrible. Jacob made it back out, obviously. But what happened to the rest of the Vigilants? Food for the vampires, I would assume.
Now, it seems that these attacks are happening again. People are being taken from the prison and fed to vampires, just like last time. We have no other choice than to go help the city. In the report, Jacob ominously warns us about the maiden statue.
If the maiden statue is opened, that means she's awake. She is the defiler of Arcay and the mistake of Stendarr. Never approach her, don't even look at her, don't listen to her voice.
If we awaken her, she should not be approached, as she will drag us to Molag Bal himself. So, off to the dungeons we go. First off, we find Jacob's old friend Joshua, who Nanak thinks has been granted a merciful death. And after seeing what this dungeon holds, I tend to agree. We find ourselves in the sewers of Windhelm, attacked by the Many-Skeever, and, if that's not gross enough, a whole lot of blood-fiend vampires. After navigating this deadly underground labyrinth, we come across an orcish vampire named Gwaji Gro-Agnam, surrounded by fresh guards and prisoners he's been feeding on.
The deeper we get in this maze, the more uneasy I become. Where are we going?
He wants a taste of us as well, so what else can we do than defend ourselves? After he's dead, it becomes obvious to us that he was one of the Vigilants from 20 years ago, still wearing his robes.
Look, he's wearing Vigilant robes. It's as I feared then. Not all the Vigilants in the 180 expedition died.
It just feels really sad that a person who dedicated his life fighting Daedra became a vampire himself. We must dig deeper into this place, so down the well we go. Under the ladder, a man called Paolo approaches us, mistaking us for Gwaji.
You're not Gwaji? Who are you? Where's Gwaji? What did you do to him?
Oh, he thinks he can outrun a fireball.
He's another Vigilant from 20 years ago, not dead as presumed, but instead also living as a vampire under the city. We attack him as well, as is our duty, but this time it has a little punch to it, as he is initially running away from us.
Got him. I think that was another Vigilant.
Finally, we make our way to a huge underground city, which Nanak thinks might have been built for Ysgramor, the first human ruler of Skyrim and Windhelm's founder, to use as a burial tomb.
Shortly after Windhelm's founding, it said that a massive tomb was built underneath the city for Ysgramor.
That was a long time ago, and now this place is populated by blood fiends and blood liches, which we must fight in order to get through and find the source or leader of these vampires. In the cells of the vampire prison, we finally find one coherent and non-aggressive person. Thingol was also a Vigilant, and while on their mission, they fought the Blood Matron, who forced them to drink her blood and turn into vampires.
All of those who refused her blood are imprisoned here. We will stay here until we give in.
Thingol and others who refused to do so were locked away until they give in. Here we learn more about the Blood Matron, the woman depicted on the statue. She was a Nedic maiden, a priestess of Arcay, violated by Molag Bal in the Merithic era, and thus became the first vampire.
Every night, I dream of her, crying tears of blood. She's been crying ever since she was violated by Molag Bal. I want you to kill me. I want to die before I become a bloodthirsty monster.
After talking to him, we give Thingol Stendarr's justice. grudgingly, as I did hope we could help him some other way. But alas, there is no other way.
He does not wish to go on, to succumb to this Blood Matron's influence.
Our journey continues forward until we come across a large dining hall.
I don't suppose they were just drinking mead out of these chalices.
And behind it, a creepy statue and a man, another Vigilant, Aradthel, an Altmer vampire, who promptly attacks us with his dual-wielded swords.
They're all lost. Now, there's only me and her left, and the monster before my eyes. Monster of Molag Bal, you will go no further. Let the souls of my lost friends find peace in your death.
Time for some action!
In his note, he describes how their ranks surrendered to the Blood Matron and how he was the only one who willingly drank her blood. He also describes the Blood Matron's steward, named Bal. Finally, we find our way to the Matron's chamber. This is a beautiful throne room, and we can see a woman with a dagger in her heart lying in a casket on top of charred bodies, and sitting next to her is none other than the Lord of Corruption, Molag Bal. We can also find the original body of Jacob, who later got a new one after sacrificing her wife's soul in exchange of it.
That coffin there, is that her? The Blood Matron? Be careful. What is this? What is happening?
When we approach the casket, Molag Bal disappears, and we get skewered with spikes and black out completely.
What's wrong? Oh, let's move on. The sun is setting. I'm LeMay. You're LeMay. Have you forgotten?
We wake up in a valley with this woman, the priestess of Arkay, LeMay Belfag, standing next to us. We are inside her dream as her lover, and she's excited to lead us to her father's castle. Together, we make our way into the Blood Mist castle grounds, where we can find this huge tree, and under it, there's the skeleton and the loot of a nameless bard, which remains as a mystery to us. As we're walking to the entrance of the castle, we can see that Molag Bal, the so-called father of LeMay, has been waiting for us.
Don't you want to be with this girl forever? Her happiness is the will of Stendarr, too. There is no need to abandon your faith. Just take heart and go on. Nothing more is needed.
He tries to talk us into pledging ourselves to her, who we can see has now turned into a vampire with a dagger stabbed through her heart, just like in her statue. Here we can accept this generous offer of joining LeMay, or decline it.
I'm so happy. We will always be together, forever and ever.
I, Molag Bal, will bless this union. The two of you will live forever, and Arkay will never touch you.
Drink the blood of LeMay. Her blood promises you a life eternal.
If we accept it, we'll walk into the castle together with her, and upon touching the altar, the story jumps right into Act 4, skipping Act 3 entirely. We, of course, won't do any of that, so instead, an exhilarating boss fight versus LeMay Bal begins. After defeating her, we return to the throne room and back to Nanak, who says we didn't actually get impaled at all, just lost our consciousness for a while. LeMay looks desiccated now, and we pull the dagger, Bard's dagger, out of her heart. After this, Molag Bal rises LeMay once more and seeks her on us, and with one swift strike at Blood Curse of Molag Bal, the situation calms down.
I think that's it. The Blood Matron is dead.
We have now finally freed LeMay from this curse, and the quest of defeating the vampires in Windhelm is completed.
It seems that corrupting Vigilance is a pastime for Molag Bal. My guess is he probably has a whole collection of them wandering Coldharbour. It would be less than ideal if we were to end up there walking the sands alongside them.
Act 3. Child of Oblivion. After the adventure in Windhelm, we return to the temple and have a chat with Gwyneth the librarian.
Some time ago, a Vigilant was sent to the mansion of a noble from Coral. Now we've received a letter from him, asking for reinforcements.
She asks us to go and check on a fellow Vigilant called Bartholo. He had been sent to Cyrodiil, where he was investigating mysterious deaths in a mansion, but he hasn't been heard from since. We learn that the mansion's residing family consists of Marcus, his wife Julia, who died last year, and their young son Julius.
Lady Julia died last year, however. They found her burnt body at the shore of Lake Ilinalta.
There's a carriage waiting for us outside, so we hop on it to travel south and arrive in Cyrodiil at the Bruant mansion. The Khajiit carriage driver bids us farewell and reminds us to behave ourselves, as this is a noble family after all.
The honors are nobles, so you should be on your best behavior. Khajiit says this in case you forget.
At the entrance to the mansion, a servant has been waiting for us, an Aeliad named Bal, just like in Arethel's note. Aelids, or High or Wild Elves, were the original founders of the Imperial City, but they have been pretty much extinct for hundreds of years, so meeting one is uncommon to say the least.
Like the rest of my people, I am just a shadow, a remnant, nothing worth talking about. It's not that unusual. It's a common name for an elf. Master Buffalo is also waiting for us inside. Please, come in.
Astute of you. By and large, the wild elves have been gone from Tamriel since the Second Era. None have even been seen since the Oblivion crisis.
Bal says that his lord and Bartholo are waiting for us inside, so carefully we proceed.
What is this? Hey, can you hear me? The door is stuck. I can't open it.
Nanak is completely blocked from entering the building, and this is where I'll stop including him in the video, as of not to spoil any more of the Khajiit Will Follow Vigilant story. It is an amazing one, and I encourage all of you to try the mod out the next time you play this quest. The sight in the main hall is a dramatic one. There's a figure of a child, Julius I presume, looming over the body of his father, Marcus Bruant. The noble master of this mansion has a dagger shoved in his eye, and in his note, he explains his motivations of doing this to himself. Julius, his son, is a child of Oblivion, no longer human, and that is entirely his fault. At this point, my questions are: where is the missing Vigilant, Bartholo, and what exactly happened here? When we approach, the figure of a child vanishes and starts moving in these cramped corridors full of armored statues and ominous paintings. The shadow child leads us into Marcus's room, where we can read a journal of his, as well as find Bartholo's journal. In the fellow Vigilant's journal, we learn more about the situation. Bartholo couldn't stop these strange deaths from happening and found totems of Molag Bal, which he also failed to dispel. Someone had placed powerful blood curses on the totems, so full of hatred, similar to those of ancient Aelids. Who had done such a thing, and why? In Marcus's journal, we learn more about the timeline of the events. After the Vigilant arrived, the employees of the mansion kept going crazy, and the child, Julius, was withdrawn and spent a lot of time in his mother's quarters, which I think would be understandable in these circumstances. When we investigate more of Marcus's room, we can find a totem behind the shelf that is not just a statue, but an entrance to the blood curse of Shivering. It takes us to a horrible place that is so rusty and bloody and creepy, with all the furniture all messed up on the walls and spikes and bars everywhere. In these corridors, there are the most disgusting creatures I've ever had to fight against, and the whole place is a total displeasure to explore. The only redeeming thing in this cursed place is that we can find clues about the whole situation. In one of the cells, we can find Heather, one of the servants, and Marcus Brunt himself meditating by the fire and attacking us on sight. It is getting clear that the mysterious deaths in the mansion are not just accidents. Heather's presence proves it, as it seems that she has been used to implement this blood curse. We fight a number of enemies that resemble human bodies, and they are simply gruesome. Finally, there is a boss fight, Shivering Sibylla, guarding an altar of Molag Bal. After defeating her, we can dispel the curse and teleport back to Marcus's room. There are more totems to be found, and the next one is in the servants' quarters in the Ayleid Elves Bal's room. We nosily read his letters. One is a spicy letter from Patricia, who seeks comfort in Bal's arms because she's afraid of Julius, whose eyes are described as dark as Oblivion. The other letter pleads him to stop sharing black magic knowledge with the child. This room is bloody as well, and behind the bed there is another totem, Blood Curse of Corruption. This place looks quite similar, but this time it's like a tower with the ceiling up high and many stairs to climb to reach the altar. On the bottom floor, there is a giant bonfire made of thrones, more enemies, and lying on the floor, Maid Patricia's body. She's another soul sacrificed to this blood curse. When we reach the top floor of this grim tower, we have to fight the boss, Judge of Corruption, who drops a really interesting sword for those who love this creepy theme of Act 3. We dispel the curse again and return to the manor. We receive the key to Julius's room, so that's where we're headed next. Little did I know that this mod, and especially Act 3, which was already for my worst nightmares, could get even worse. After we check out Julius's room and grab the key and the journal, the Red Witch, ghostly Julia, starts chasing us, as well as zombie Patricia, and the manor turns into a proper horror house. After a while of struggle to find the basement, we get a moment to catch our breath and think about what just happened. In Marcus's journal, he describes how he has been unfaithful to his wife Julia and how she couldn't possibly know that. He also describes the events of her going missing alongside with Julius and how the boy was changed after he was found in the forest. It was Jacob who found Julia floating in the lake Illinalta, her body so burned the water was boiling around her. Every night, Marcus sees nightmares of Julia and Julius handing him a red stone, burning his hand into ash. In the basement, there is yet another monster patrolling around, which we will not fight, only try to find the key to the garden and make our way there. It is nice to sit down for a second, but I just wish Nanak could be here with me. It has been awful without him. Here we can see the bodies of 3 dogs near the pond. Back in the temple, Gwyneth did tell us that Marcus made his fortune by breeding military dogs for the Legion. In the pond, we can find the 3rd totem, the Blood Curse of Wrath, which we must enter next. Immediately we can see that this place is a horrifying labyrinth, full of enemies and oddities, for the lack of a better word. There's also the body of Lamthor, who in his note warns Marcus about Bal, the Aelid steward, who's been teaching the boy some incantations. Deeper in the labyrinth, there's also the body of Clifford, the old butler, and once again, we learn more about Julius's mischiefs. Here we must fight our way to the totem again to dispel the curse. Back we go into the house to the north wing. We can see Julius's shadow form again lead us to the higher floor, but of course we must explore a bit before going forward. We find the gardener Khajiit's room, where in his note he describes how he's seeing the ghost of Julia in the night, but blames it on skooma. Fair enough, I guess. Now we can follow Julius, and this time he leads us to something we have been waiting to find ourselves at, the room of the fellow Vigilant, Bartholo. Finding him was our top priority, and here he finally is. Gone, yes, but we finally found him. But I can hear Heather's monstrous form rustling behind the door, and rather face the atrocities of the curse than her, so off we go again. This time we're in the blood curse of Chain, another maze of a place. We can hear someone crying in the distance, and I would like to cry as well, as there are so many enemies in these cramped and cursed hallways of rust and blood. We'll find the body of Samil to cook, and deeper in the maze, the boss we have to defeat here is Bartholo, the Knight of Bloodrust. So I guess our fellow Vigilant also got himself sacrificed. After defeating him, we return to the mansion to find the final totem that should be in Julia's room. Again, we run for our lives in the hallways from all the monstrosities. Hopefully this building will soon have peace, as this is getting crazy. Julia's room looks like it was rather cozy when everything was still okay, but now there's blood everywhere. On the table is Marcus's journal that Julia had been reading. It sheds light to what he has done. I broke the pledge of Mara that I have with Julia, but it's not my fault that her debalanced scent misled me so. Marcus bought that woman and brought her to the mansion, only to kick her out when she was with a child, and even considered silencing her for good. What a gentleman. In Julia's journal, all the pages are covered with one word, die, in reaction to his husband's actions. This rage and betrayal drove her to Molag Bal, and as a revenge, cursed the mansion and everyone who stepped inside of it, with Julius as a vessel for the curse. If we follow the blood, we'll find a secret tunnel leading to a hidden chamber where the last totem is located, the blood curse of jealousy. There's also a final letter from Julia to Marcus, in which she says goodbye to him and lets him know she takes Julius with her. We of course proceed to enter the last curse to see an end to all of this. Inside the blood curse of jealousy, everything looks beautiful for a change. The brilliant mansion looms in the distance, and even though there are more enemies waiting for us, it almost seems peaceful. I could stay here for longer, but we must do what we came here to do. When we approach the altar, Julia the Crimson starts her attack, representing her burning jealousy and anger, and the final boss fight inside a curse begins. After defeating her, we return to the hidden room where Bal, who we now know for sure is an agent of Molag Bal, is waiting for us.
What a stubborn guest you are. Why couldn't you just die?
He's angry we haven't perished to the curses and attacks us. After defending ourselves, we get the last key and return to the main room of Bryant Mansion. On the floor lies the lifeless Julius, not Marcus, like when we first arrived to the mansion. The situation at the family house becomes now clear. With Bal's guidance, Julius set the totems of blood curse because he was so full of rage and resentment by his father's actions and how he drove her mother to Molag Bal. That is why Marcus had to stop him for good. By dispelling the dagger next to him, we can free the boy, but not before defeating his corrupted spirit first. The mansion is now burning and there's no way to get out. Molag Bal appears in the main hall and he explains his motivations behind making all this horror happen.
Because you disgust me. It infuriates me when I see the Aetherius inside you. I despise all of creation, all of Mundus. And I despise you insignificant mortals most of all. So brilliant in your goodness, your innocence.
But there's no time to waste in this place, and we need to find a way to get out. Option 1 is to accept Molag Bal's generous helping hand. Albeit forced by the circumstances, we can walk to the portal peacefully to start the final act of the quest mod and finally arrive to Coldharbour, where we have been gently pushed to all this time. Option 2 is to decline him and choose martyrdom, to burn in these cursed flames.
Stendarr will not lift a finger to save your pathetic skin. It is his wish that you burn and die here.
If we do this, our character literally dies here. We then spawn again at the temple and are prompted to create a new character who is another Vigilant of Stendarr and gets sent to the manor for reinforcements.
Did you finish your prayers? The keeper of this temple went to the Bryant Mansion and still hasn't returned. I want you to find out what happened.
When we touch the amulet of Stendarr, the hall goes dark, imbued in Sithis' influence, the embodiment of chaos.
To sleep, to dream of Tamriel, unsullied by any real. Old forest, kindness garden, release the twisted love.
Black Hand appears in front of us, an entity of Night Mother's 5 young children, encouraging us to enter the belly of the lizard. Molag Bal has replaced the statue of Dibella that once stood there, but he's dead in this beastly form. The only thing we can really do here is to drink his flowing blood, and that way move on to Act 4, to Coldharbour, Molag Bal's realm.
Look who finally woke up.
Act 4, Coldharbour. Before facing the trials and tribulations of Coldharbour, let's take a moment and think about what we have been through. For 3 acts straight, we have been dealing with Molag Bal, and all he has done is to push us here, even though, realistically, he could have just finished us off at any point. So what in Oblivion is our purpose here? Act 4 is located in a free-to-roam world space, and it is huge and full of things to discover, items, side quests and boss battles. I will not cover absolutely everything in this video for the sake of my own sanity, but I'll of course include things I find interesting and what is relevant to the main quest. Just a small disclaimer, and now let's continue. At the beginning of Act 4, we finally wake up in Coldharbour, a realm of Oblivion ruled by Molag Bal. Straight off, a man called Inquisitor Pepe approaches us and promptly lets us know how he feels about the vigilance of Stendarr.
Stendarr. So you serve that scheming god of righteousness? That would explain your downfall. Did you kill a beggar and take his clothes? Or did you use an innocent child for a shield? It's enough to end up here. You swam in the blood of others, didn't you?
Well, he's not completely in the wrong. We learn that we are in the old monastery of the Alessian Order, where pilgrims used to pray to Saint Alessia, the first human empress of Cyrodiil and the leader of the slave rebellion in the early First Era. He also reveals that Molag Bal resides in the tower in the middle of the city, and as far as we are aware, dealing with him is the ultimate objective of our stay here. This monastery is located in Waterfront District, as Coldharbour mockingly imitates the imperial city. Outside the building, we can see wretched husks of people aimlessly walking around, cursed to do so, as their souls are stolen by Molag Bal. Overall, this place is pretty interesting in all of its eeriness.
Be gone, swine, or shall I tear you apart?
These skeletons on pillars, the dusty town and its inhabitants, from these guarding minotaur vampires to countless soul-shriven individuals, some of them infected with leech parasites. Even if we are forced to come to Coldharbour, I'm happy that we now get to meet some of the characters from the previous acts. Well, Balor, the thief guy with the eye, is understandably not so happy to see us, but he'll still kindly sell his wares.
I got infected with the mutated Thracian plague, all thanks to you. Every day is full of pain because of you.
Giovanni has his own little house as well, but to my surprise, he's sharing it with Marceau, who now is this little thing, for his soul is so twisted for dealing with Molag Bal.
Stupid Marceau. To steal the heart of Campanera, he borrowed power from Molag Bal. This form was the price. His soul was twisted, turned into a beast. Giovanni will also become like this.
In this area, there are also other interesting people you can meet, for example, Sir Henrik, a knight who needs your help now, and who you can meet later as he always gets imprisoned for some reason. There's also Hilda the Witch and Sir Amiel at the Barrier Tower, who you can recruit as a follower to join you in this wretched land.
For about 400 or 500 years, I died in Vanua, and Molag Bal stole a part of my soul.
In a graveyard nearby, we spot Martha, a woman who's been looking for her family's graves for years on end. We promise to let her know if we come across those final resting places. Enough wandering around and getting cozy, we can't stay here. The largest building of the area is this castle, Fort Verin, the home of Vernacus, the Bane of Kine. Yes, the same Vernacus we fought back in Whiterun after he was summoned there.
You humiliated me before, but now I will repay you 100-fold!
He wants to give us what we deserve for humiliating him, so he shall be our first boss fight in Coldharbour. After defeating him, we get the key to the Waterfront District main gates to proceed further. The knight at the gates has some interesting information for us, such as that the monster ahead ate a Vigilant of Stendarr a while back.
Some screaming was heard, and then nothing. If you don't want to meet the same end, you should learn your place in this world.
Walking out of the gates, we can see the Daedroth who learned to fly, Mentana, and according to Pepe, he will eat anyone trying to leave the Waterfront District. He can certainly try as another boss battle begins, this time versus this flying monstrosity guarding the passage. There is something very interesting in the gut of this monster. It seems that the Vigilant he has eaten is Altano. Our friend Altano from Act 1. That is quite interesting.
Thank you for killing the worm. I can finally enjoy my walks again.
At the now safe gates, our dear Inquisitor Pepe thanks us for getting rid of Mentona, as he can now resume his daily walks around the area. He tells us that this district is a territory of Lord Varla, a knight who hunts people with his dogs.
After he ended up here, he swore allegiance to Molag Bal. He was allowed to keep his human form, and he even got his own territory.
I heard rumors he's insane. A half-breed of a human and an elf. He hunted elves at first and then finally humans.
Inside his tower, Fort Velkend, we fight a number of enemies before finally finding our way to the throne room. Here sits Varla the human hunter, a half-alien, half-man, with his 2 loyal hounds. After the boss fight, looting an item called Enola's skull from his inventory takes us into a dream sequence or a flashback, like we did all the way earlier in Act 1 with Giovanni's memories. We have now stepped in Varla's shoes into a daytime scene of an ended battle. There's a young alien girl surrendered on the ground, and Emperor Belharza approaches us warmly.
Taking Macmontaine was good work. And now we are one step closer to Malada. Don't be so formal, Vala. We may not be related by blood, but I still think of you as my son. You can ease up.
He regards Varla as his son, even though his disdain for the aliens.
Vala, I ordered all Iliad killed, no matter whether man, woman, or child. As a knight of the Empire, you must overcome your compassion.
He pushes us to strike the girl down, but we can defy his orders that makes us lose our knighthood and the close relationship with the Emperor.
I understand. You and I are through from this day forth. Take that filthy girl and go wherever you think you can find your happiness.
The second scene begins at the port, as we're supposed to take the ship to Alinor in Somerset Isles with the girl, Enola, that is now given a new chance at life. Here we meet a reoccurring character, Bal, who would like to play us a song.
Where are we going? Is it nice there? Yes.
And while boarding the ship, we can catch a glimpse of Sheogorath on the deck, just before we return back to our senses in Coldharbour. From the skull in his inventory, we can deduct that in life Varla chose differently. Here we're helping him to remedy his actions by doing the right thing, even though it costs Varla everything. By doing this, we have finally freed Varla's soul from Molag Bal's grip. There are many similar scenes in Coldharbour, and helping these characters to choose the better choice earns us karma that, I remind you, decides the ending of the whole questline. Before continuing on with the main story, let's check out many interesting people who we can help find peace in this place. In the desolate realm of Coldharbour, we can meet the echoes of many heroes and prominent characters from the Elder Scrolls lore, as fragments of their souls have been trapped in this wasteland. In the eastern side of Coldharbour, a legendary hero, Pelinal Whitestrake, the divine crusader and a champion of Queen Alessia, awaits us. After an exhilarating boss fight, we can choose to merge our consciousness with him, which takes us to the White Gold Tower to fight hordes of Aurorans, Meridia's Daedra servants. Finally, after battling Pelinal's arch-enemy, Umaril the Unfeathered, a familiar figure appears in front of us, our old friend Bal.
This was splendid. Songs of your heroic acts will be sung in 1,000 years yet to come.
He takes us to a grim room, and in the back, in a cage, there's a woman chained up who is to become a part of Umaril's bloody exhibition. Here lies our choice. We can free her, or strike her down.
But Umaril is dead now, so there's no worry about that anymore. Splendid. You are her lifesaver.
The woman is called Mary, and she is pregnant with Umaril's child. Freeing her unites Mary with her trusty wolf companion, Korn, and causes Bal to question our choice, as her yet unborn child will surely cause disasters. After that, Pelinal appears in the hall with an epic monologue, surrendering himself and finding peace in Kine.
This is the Wind of Kine. I finally found it. Finally.
On the other hand, if we choose to strike Mary down, we'll be met with this.
I am a storm, the rage itself. This is how I can fight, battle after battle, lay village after village in ash and ruins, and murder women and children alike.
Another legendary hero of the olden days we can meet and battle here is Morihaus, son of Kine, whom with Pelinal shared a great love and respect with. After doing Pelinal's memory quest, we can merge our consciousness with this bullman and watch the scene unfold where he mourns Pelinal and swears to remain strong for his wife Alessia, or Paravania as he calls her here.
That Ada changes things through love. This is why my heart feels so heavy. It would be so much easier to surrender myself to bloodlust and rage.
And finally, after experiencing Morihaus's memory, we can meet the mentioned Queen Alessia herself in her last moments in the barrier tower of Aniamis.
I knew she would go to the stars, but it's still so painful.
If we killed Mary as Pelinal in the earlier flashback, both of these scenes of Morihaus and Alessia are different, cementing the fact that our actions decide the fate of these people's souls.
Perhaps you are not dangerous, but I can't let you go to her. At least her last walk should be done in peace.
And as a side note, a question may arise. Why is Saint Alessia in Coldharbour? The answer may be found from Baptist Menelian's journal, which can be looted after the boss fight with him. We learn that he defiled her tomb in Molag Bal's name, so it seems a small part of her soul has been corrupted, but not fully. As to why Pelinal and Morihaus are in here, it's more likely that only faint echoes of their souls are in Coldharbour, yielded to corruption, pushed to it by Bal, and then used by Molag Bal. In St. Dulce's journal, we meet again an old friend, Arethel, the Vigilant, turned into a vampire, and he has a bone to pick with us. After defeating him, we arrive to this altar of bones, and upon touching Dulce's remains, our consciousness fades to yet another flashback. We are in her memory and find Maruk, Dulce's husband, the Imga prophet who saw visions of Saint Alessia and whose teachings then formed the Alessian order. In life, he sacrificed her and their unborn child, but this time we fight back as Dulce and find the red stone in his possession. Inquisitor Pepe walks in and we trust him the stone to hide away. We can also learn more about Emperor Belharza, the son of Queen Alessia and the legendary Morihaus, in his hidden journal. We saw him earlier in Varla's flashback, but that was actually a fake Belharza, replaced by a human, since Alessians wouldn't allow a Minotaur as their emperor. He's just chilling here in a pocket dimension. In the cemetery of the Church of Archay, we're thrown into another memory of a person, Johann the Fool, who in life accepted a gift from Molag Bal, a mace that was promised to bring his dead sister Martha back to life. Well, it did the promised, but not the way Johann was hoping for. Here we can do the right thing and deny the rather attractive offer made by Bal, and subsequently redeem poor Johann's soul. And Sheogorath is again watching us like G-Man from Half-Life, that bastard. Now, Martha is actually the woman from the beginning of Act 4, where she was looking for her family's graves in Waterfront District. We can now let her know where they are, so she can finally join them and find peace. In Coldharbour, there are also less story-heavy places to go and foes to slay, and one of them is Sard's Charnel, the city of the dead, where more bony enemies await, including these bone wheels. Such fun guys. On the top of the charnel we meet Paladin Melus, a reoccurring character who just wants to find a quiet resting place for his wife Venna. An epic boss battle ensues, as is the tradition. There's also giant knight Ritho, who awaits for us on a bridge between Alessian Entrance Plaza and Battlefield of Way. We saw him earlier in Varla's vision, as those two were like brothers in their time.
At last, Varla is finally free. Little friend, I thank you.
He's glad we have freed Varla's soul from the torment of Coldharbour, but still won't let us through without challenging him. On the other side, there are fallen soldiers and Daedra in an aftermath of a battle, and a man reaching out from the crystallized wall. Now we can finally get back to the main story of the mod. To continue, we have to make our way to the slums that is the gateway to the Imperial City. This place is full of people infested by leeches and horrifying leech monsters twisted by the Thracian plague that these people ended up as, losing their humanity in the most brutal way.
To the prison tower. It's a place where people who fought against the Elysians were imprisoned. You must have seen people infested with the leeches on your way here. Whatever remains of them ends up here. Some call them Mary's children. The Elysians burned her on the pyre for, supposedly, being a witch. Some say she consorted with Molag Bal and gave birth to those monsters.
We meet Inquisitor Pepe again, who tells us that this sewer leads us to the prison tower, where those who oppose the Elysian order were held. In here, we also learn more about Mary, the chained woman from the flashback. She was a priestess blessed by Mara, a healer who ended up being burned as a witch on the pyre during the outbreak of the plague.
She is a priestess of Mara from the time of the Elysian Empire. Apparently, she was a healer who could cure the Thracian plague.
Mary is very kind. She does not hurt Atima like her old mother.
In the deep of the dungeons, we'll face Mary, the Dark Maiden, and defeating her takes us into yet another flashback. We're in a prison cell closely watched by Molag Bal, none other, until Inquisitor Pepe comes to see us.
And those kissing your feet today will throw you on the fire tomorrow at my merest jester. Are you aware of this? Yes, I think you are. Look at the stone. Can you turn the stone into bread? Of course not. How could you? If there's anyone in Mundus who deserves to be burned on the pyre, then it is you. Tomorrow you will die. Then it will finally be over.
He rambles endlessly, and by staying silent for all through his rant, he gets nervous and opens our cell door, letting us go free to Mary's loyal companion, while a familiar tune plays out in the background. With all this we now know of Mary, she was indeed with Umaril's child, who grew up to be Varla and slain by Pelinal Whitestrake. She was then resurrected by Lady Mara and continued to spread her word, and possibly even healing people from the Thracian plague, until she was burned as a witch by Pepe and the Alessian order. After that, all we have to do is fight our way through the endless sewers and the prison tower above it, until we find our way to the inner city. When we finally get out of the prison and reach the Imperial City, we find ourselves in the middle of enemies and a whole lot more to explore in this open space. But we can bypass all that now, as we're headed to Curia Morimath, that is located south of this twisted emulation of the Imperial City. In this grand hall, we must first defeat Archpriest Sentius to get a key to go forward. After that, we can unlock our way to the Golden Sanctuary and walk through the endless piles of golden riches until we arrive to this spectacular room. On the floor, we can see a frightening figure, Pope Megas, lying on his side. One option is to fight him, but if we have the staff of the Archpriest with us, we don't have to.
Pepe, it's you. It's been a long time. I'm glad to see you again. I did not expect to hear this name from you. She was an excellent healer. Sometimes I wonder whether she really was Mara's daughter.
He mistakes us for Pepe and gives us some interesting information and reflects on the failures of the Elysian Order. The egg behind him is an interesting one. It contains the key we need to proceed further, but also skulls, flesh and hearts of people who have sacrificed themselves, as well as the sword and staff of Prophet Maruk, whose teachings were the foundation of the Elysian Order. With the key, we'll get to the Inquisition Court District, where we can train our sniping skills and get spooked by this creature, an Elysian sister, half spider, half woman. I do not want to get close to her, so rather than starting a fight, let's sneak past her. On the other side of the bridge, we see a floating temple and meet Pepe again, who tells us more about it.
This is Malada, the High Fane of the Iliad. Fanatics brought it here, supposedly so they could dance here, to erase the 8 divines from Mundus.
We want to go there, so Pepe helps us with directions to find an underground portal to reach it in Maruk's underground priory. After an epic boss fight against Abbot Cosmos, who cleansed Malada with Holy Flame in the First Era, Pepe meets us once again, this time acting vaguely threatening.
Someday, the same will happen to you. And until someone kills you, you will wander this wasteland endlessly.
Now we can finally step into the portal and arrived to Malada, the Iliad Temple. Here we're met with a horde of enemies in multiple different rooms, and after we have fought our way through, we'll finally find Arch-Selective Caliburn, and it is, you guessed it, another boss fight. Behind him there is a door that leads us to Prophet Maruk himself, sitting in some sort of pod, keeping him safe and sound. Pepe has followed us here once again, and he tells us a story on how he met Maruk in the Colovian jungle, as well as a certain bard.
At that time, I still served the 8 divines. I heard an Iliad bard sing a strange song at the crossroads, about the Imga dancing with the apparition of Saint Alicia. When I asked him about it, he told me he had seen it himself in the jungles of Colovia. I went to see it with my own eyes. Normally, I'd laugh at such a story, but I felt as if it was my duty to go and see. Perhaps I felt like that because there was something strangely mysterious about that bard. Anyway, I went to Colovia.
In Maruk's flashback, we saw that he had the red stone, and here Pepe tells us that he brought it to the Imperial City, and when it was lost, the order crumbled soon after. Right now, the stone is at the top of the tower in the center of the city, and that's where we're headed next.
Yes, it seems the army of Order broke through the barrier. At last, Grey March will begin. You truly did well.
Pepe tells us that the Grey March is commencing, and sure enough, Laza of Order appears out of thin air. We saw him earlier at Rithos Bridge, alongside with the barrier shielding Coldharbour from Gigalag's Grey March. After we slay him and leave the temple, we'll see that everything has changed in the landscape. The Grey March has invaded Coldharbour, making large crystal obelisks emerge from the ground, spawning enemies and destroying everything it touches. To get into Suncremor Tower, Molag Bal's twisted version of the White Gold Tower, we need a key to the inner district. In Malatar Mansion, we find the Mad King Drozel, the Khajiit King of Senchal, who's feeling depressed and vengeful by a story he heard from a certain bard, who kept tormenting him endlessly with it.
I want to hear this depressing story ever again.
We fight our way to the top of the mansion and find him quivering next to his deceased wife, Queen Hazama.
I killed him over and over again. I cut off his limbs, tore out his heart. He still returns as if nothing happened.
Upon touching her body, we're dropped into another memory, this time Hazama's.
Hazama! That blasted bard's tale about a Polydor and a Louisa had put me into a rotten state. Why did he have to be so depressing? At Bard, where did they say he was from again?
Drosel asks us where the bard who pestered him with the story is from. If we answer truthfully, he summons Molag Bal to destroy the settlement. This is the so-called bad option, making us lose karma. If we instead calm him down, he goes to bed and tries to forget about it. After returning to reality, we free him from his misery for good. Now we have the key and are all but ready to storm the tower in the center of the city. The tower is deteriorating and Pepe is here now as a ghost. We'll ask him about Laza, the man we fought earlier in Malada, but he doesn't quite seem to remember him. There is a lot to explore in the Sankramur Tower, but we're focusing on our task at hand, getting to Molag Bal and finding the stone. The stone that is in the center of all of this. After fighting our way through these perilous halls, we'll find ourselves in a chamber room. The body of Saint Alessia is trapped in here as a vessel of Molag Bal. After defeating everyone, including Laza who somehow appeared again, we should finally be free to confront the main bad guy.
Is it not enough yet? Must you be the one to do this? Grey March will end everything anyway.
In this hallowed hall, Pepe the ghost comes back one more time and gives us an ominous message. We dismiss him and find Molag Bal lying behind his throne, pleading for his life. We strike him down and collect a stone from his possession, which we then place on its place on the floor. This opens a gate to Aetherius, heaven, the origin plane of all magic. We are at the conclusion of Vigilant, so it is the time to go through the endings of it. We have been collecting karma with our moral choices all through Act 1 to all the way to Coldharbour that dictates the ending of the questline. There are multiple endings to the mod, so let us go through all of them in detail. If we didn't gain enough karma during the quests, we'll have to endure the so-called bad ending. After opening the gate to Aetherius, Molag Bal thanks us. This is what he's been going after the whole time. His goal was to leave Coldharbour to Jigaleg and his Grey March and conquer Aetherius, and we have been the means to make it happen. When we follow Molag Bal to the portal, Stendarr's plane of Aetherius is on fire, and Stendarr himself is dead. The Lord of Corruption owns this plane now, and it's all our fault.
This is all thanks to you. Stendarr is finally dead, and Aetherius is mine. I am most grateful to you. All of this is possible only because you opened the gate to Aetherius.
After that, we can return to Skyrim and, I suppose, continue our life like nothing happened. Whoops, sorry guys. Let's rewind this mistake. If we have accumulated enough karma during the quest, we have the chance to get a different, better outcome. We'll arrive to Aetherius, where Molag Bal has been petrified into a stone statue. By touching it, we can take a peek of his essence. We're now in the abyss of Molag Bal, where we can choose to do 2 more memory quests. The first one is about Pepe, who's being interrogated by a Colovian soldier about the whereabouts of the Red Stone.
So you're still chasing after the stone? It seems that even after centuries, the foolishness of people doesn't change. After countless uprisings and as many plagues, the stone has been filled with the souls of millions of people. Your emperor desperately wants that stone? Well, it's a pity, but the stone isn't here anymore. It's out of your reach now. Molag Bal, the hideous lizard king. He descended to the tower on the day of eclipse and stole the stone from us.
How long have I been wandering in this wasteland?
The other memory quest here is Maruk's flashback, where he is lost in a desert, hopeless and in danger, and finds the body of a bard in possession of the stone. After we grab it, Alessia appears before us and urges us to fill the stone and place it in the tower.
Maruk, can you hear me? Fill the stone. When the lost Addon Bal regains its splendor, this endless war will be over. Fill the stone, restore the Addon Bal, and place it in the tower. This is your mission.
She is actually not the true live Alessia, but a puppet of Molag Bal, attempting to persuade Maruk to do his will and fill the stone with souls. Like we've done before, we're choosing differently, and instead slay this image of Alessia and deny Molag Bal's offer, which results in Maruk dying in the desert, with his last thought being his wife, Dulsa.
Death it is, then.
My third eye is already blind. My tongue is swollen and my throat is parched. I will not last much longer. My beloved Dulsa, I only regret not being able to see you again. I wish you a happy life.
We return to the Abyss and finally face Molag Bal himself in a battle.
Well, let us finish this. Tell me who I am, who you are.
Behind him, under the tree, is the last available memory. This place is not just a memory, but something more mythical entwined with a flashback. We're in Elderfield, by the Elder Gleam tree, and in front of us sits Lamay Bealfag, the first vampire, in her human form.
Can you sing me the rest of the song? Yes, the end. It's such a sad and cruel story. Shouldn't the ending be inspiring and full of happiness?
Lamay wants to hear the rest of the song we were singing to her, and there's 2 options we can choose to say to her. From here, the rest of the possible endings path out. The scary thing is, even if we have accumulated enough karma, we can still get a less than optimal ending to the story. It doesn't matter which dialogue option we choose here, but after Lamay's servant, a man called Fuzzies, comes to get her, and together they leave the meadow, we can choose to interact with one of 2 items, a lute, or this thing, a spawn. We'll touch the spawn, and a monologue commences.
Once upon a time, when the Elder Gleam was still young, I slept in Kain's cradle. Nobody wanted me to awake, but in the search of light I forced myself through thousands of roots and crawled out of the ground. The sound of a rusted bell calls my name, and a red eye looks into my heart.
It reveals the identity of the person whose flashback we're experiencing, if it wasn't already quite clear. We are in the memories of the nameless bard, the mysterious person, Lamay's lover, whose remains we found in Act 2. The scene changes. Now we are in a dark, rainy forest. There are dead animals everywhere, and it's just eerie all around. And if it wasn't creepy enough already, This is our appearance.
You are not Shazar, nor his prophet. You are just an imitation, a fake. Nothing but a pale beast of Sithis!
Sheogorath speaks to us in these words, he taunts us, and we'll follow the sound of his voice.
Monster! Stay away from me!
We'll find LeMay lying on the ground, crying, hurt, and scared. It seems that this is all our doing.
When did insanity overtake me? When did the reflection in the water turn into an ugly monster? Who am I? Where am I going? What do I seek?
The bard reflects on his monstrous appearance and memories, which he doesn't seem to have anymore. He doesn't remember who he is or what his goals are. Sheogorath appears before us and keeps taunting us for our poor choices in life.
You knew that. You should have known. And now, everything is beyond Oblivion! Is it not so? You don't even know who you are anymore! Even burnt by stone, you won't let your desire go. Must your soul burn on and on, without ever knowing peace?
The next dialogue option is important and dictates the ending from here on out. Choosing the still dialogue option, we're doubling down on the bard's poor choices in life, as I so kindly put it.
As expected from Molag Bal, a beast furthest from Shazar. Just weak, just wicked, just ugly. Your black soul has finally reached Sithis. Welcome, our new sibling.
And this makes the situation even worse, as he doesn't even attempt to resist Molag Bal's influence on him.
I am a coward who can only live in eternally repeating dreams. From the very beginning, it was my fate to be swallowed by the darkness I raised myself.
We're now walking through the same hall in the Sancremor Tower. The bard is now completely under Molag Bal's grasp, even to go so far as to say that he's a part of him. He is doomed to repeat all his past mistakes and serve Molag Bal for an eternity. This part of him is Bal, the Ayleid we have met times before, whose only goal is to tempt other people and their souls into the hands of Molag Bal, and who has also succeeded to do so, as we have seen in the multiple flashbacks. He is also the steward of the first vampire LeMay, connecting to her in a different world.
Everything repeats, even now. After I knew the darkness, after I overcame the darkness, after I died.
Let's return to the rainy forest and this time choose the second dialogue option.
Your waking soul will forget all. And when it does, all will be as in a dream. Farewell, our forgotten sibling. Sleep once again.
Where am I? This scorched journal told me nothing.
This time, we wake up in a snowstorm in a whale graveyard. We have forgotten everything and just wander around this wasteland, following a fox. This fox is not just any other furry four-legged friend, but Shor himself, the Nordic representation of Lorkhan, the creator of Nirn. He takes us through the storm, and before transitioning into Skyrim's wilderness and actual present-day reality, we can meet a familiar figure, Tsune himself, a shield Thane of Shor.
Stone, is that you? No, you are not him. Who are you? So, just an empty shell then. Soulless and heartless. Pitiful.
Now, after activating this shrine of Stendarr, we fall to the ground and are met with Jacob, our good old Vigilant friend, finding us and helping us. Now the bard is bard no more, nor Bal. Instead, he's Altano, the Vigilant who recruited us to the Order in Act 1. This is the part of him who chose to dismiss his bad deeds and try to forget them instead of double-downing to the grasp of Molag Bal. The spawn is a symbol of surrendering to Molag Bal's influence, and the loot is a symbol of resisting it. We have now checked out what happens if he chooses to surrender to the Lord of Corruption, and now let's see what will happen if we choose the instruments. We'll go all the way back to Eldergleam and tell LeMay that there is nothing more to sing in the song and that the story ends badly. This time, after she leaves with her servant, we'll choose the lute.
Her screams echoed across the fjords of Skyrim. I remember carrying her unconscious, violated body to the nearby camp of nomads. But she did not wake up again, and Nern lost the bright start of her life that day. Once upon a time, when the Eldergleam was still young, before it was trapped underground, the world was full of danger and wondrous magic. On that day I shed a single drop of blood on her brow. I only wished to give her a peaceful eternity, but instead, I cursed her with the agony of immortality. The tears of blood will never dry, and no sins will be forgiven. The stone, which led me to my fall, clothed itself in fire and slowly scorched my body.
These choices take us to a funeral pyre. LeMay is dead, with Bard's dagger pierced through her heart. Her song begins to play, but right now it's not the time to enjoy it. In this version of events, the Bard succumbed to Molag Bal, resulting LeMay to rise again, this time as a vampire. She was suffering in the forest, and a nearby nomad clan found her and tried to help her, but LeMay the vampire went on a rampage, killing everyone except this man, Laza. He's the same man who we remember from earlier fighting with the Grey March.
How could you do this? Give them back. My family, my sister. Please, give them back. Curse you, monster of Cephas! Curse you! Curse you! Curse you!
After the Bard saw what Molag Bal had turned LeMay into, a true monster, he stopped her. By doing this, I think the Bard resisted the Lord of Corruption's influence on him, but the mistake was already made. Here you can also do something unimaginable. You can strike Molag Bal down and eat his heart. This takes us straight to the Molag Bal ending. Not ideal, but I can't deny that it is an interesting way of choosing the Bard's fate. I can't speak for you, but I'm desperately in need for some joy and light after these horrifying events. For the good ending, we'll once again return to the vision of the Eldergleam tree and tell LeMay that the next time we meet, we'll have the song ready for her. It might not be true, but it's a comforting thought. Regardless of what we do, her fate is sealed, but we can try to give her soul some peace at least. After she leaves, we choose the lute again.
Sometime later, her screams echoed across the fjords of Skyrim. I remember carrying her unconscious, violated body to the nearby camp of nomads. But she did not wake up again, and Nern lost a bright start of her life that day. Once upon a time, when the Eldergleam was still young, before it was trapped underground, the world was full of danger and wondrous magic. But I will not bow down to the cruel fate. Someday, I know this suffering will pass and fade away like a morning fog. All the sins will be forgiven and all the blood washed away someday. Everything will be buried by the dust of history and become a part of the songs.
The Bard starts to remember LeMay and her life before she passed. her song begins to play, and we can sit and listen to it for a while by her grave at the sacred tree. By the fence, a perplexed Molag Bal awaits us and asks our name.
I don't understand. If you wanted she could have lived again. Why? Why did you refuse? Wait, you still haven't told me your name.
Here we can identify the bard with our chosen name, give him Stendarr's name, or make him stay nameless. After that, we return to Aetherius, where the stone figure of Molag Bal is shattered, and his influence over the plane and the bard is denied. In this good ending, the bard accepts LeMay's passing. He doesn't resort to Molag Bal to save her, and so in turn, she doesn't have to endure defilement at any point. The bard doesn't sell his own soul in exchange for LeMay's unlife. The vicious circle has been broken, and the bard is finally free from the everlasting servitude and torment. We'll then return to Skyrim and are met with a couple of familiar Alfics. And yes, this is where I broke down ugly crying, and it's okay if you did too.
Ah, good. You are fine. Jazan is glad. Then at least he did not pull you out of the water for nothing. They are Arfik. They look like normal cats, but they are real Khajiit. They are as clever as Jazan.
Vigilant's story is intricate and very much up to some interpretation, and so my understanding of the story may be flawed, but this is how I see it. In the center of everything that happens in Vigilant is the relationship between an elf and a human. Because the bard asked help from Molag Bal, he stepped into the bard's body like it's something he could just freely use, violated LeMay, and, as follows, created the first vampire. For this price of LeMay's so-called life, the bard had to serve the Lord of Corruption for an eternity and corrupt more souls to reside in Coldharbour for hundreds of years, as he successfully did to so many people. The nameless bard, Bal, and Altano are all the same person, but his soul, or being, is fragmented into these different pieces, born from the choices he made. Because of a dragon break, all of the previous neutral endings happen at once, and that is why we meet both Altano and Bal. Dragon break is a phenomenon where time stops making sense and becomes non-linear. This is the part that makes me the most confused, so I won't elaborate further. So the bard is basically repeating his mistakes, unable to escape, until we come in the picture and break this vicious circle with the good ending we just saw. In Coldharbour, a question may arise as to why is the whole of the Elysian Empire in there. During the flashbacks, we'll find a lot of clues why this happened.
This stone is our authority on Earth, and we will never give it up. Already, 2,000 years passed since the Imga prophet found the stone in the dense jungles of Colovia.
The red stone in the center of all of this was a bottomless soul gem, a fake Adabal, the gem in the Amulet of the Kings, created by Molag Bal as a trap. It was meant to rally the crumbling Elysian Empire together, but everyone who prayed to it got their souls sent straight to Coldharbour. Maruk got the stone from the fake Alesia in the desert, and with the help of Pepe, he brought it to the tower, and consequently doomed the whole of the empire to fall.
And I found it. I saw a dirty monkey, smeared with blood, dancing with the illusion of Saint Alicia under the full moon. The monkey saw me standing there in shock, raised a brilliant stone and said, "Take this stone to the tower."
Then, Gigalag and his Grey March is released, and he starts conquering the plains of Oblivion, Coldharbour included.
The barrier will not last much longer. Then, Grey March will overrun this wasteland and crush us all.
Molag Bal has to leave this plane behind, and he needs a special someone to open the gates of Aetherius for him, and specifically Stendarr's plane in Aetherius. This special someone is of course the last Dragonborn, a mortal with a touch of divinity on him or her, maybe even a Cesarin, an incarnation of Lorcan. And if we, as the Dragonborn, reap more fear, hatred, and terror with our actions, we allow Molag Bal into Aetherius. On the other hand, if we decide to spread forgiveness and help those around us, we leave him on his own devices to deal with Gigalag. The ending of Vigilant made me feel empty for days. It was an amazing adventure, albeit a bit traumatizing. I mean, we walked in literal hell, saved people's souls while at it, and defied Molag Bal, arguably the worst of the Daedric princes. All this being said, there's 2 more Vicn quest mods that I haven't played yet at all, GLENMORIL and Onslaught, and those might have more explanations to Vigilant's story, which I yet know nothing about. But before playing them, I do need a little break from these themes and sit under some rainbows and sunshine for a while. If you watched the whole video, sincerely, thank you for joining me in this journey. Now, I need to hear your thoughts on Vigilant, so do not hesitate to leave a comment down below. I'll be sure to read them all with care. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe. It'll be much appreciated. To support the channel, watch extra content, and gain access to Discord, check out patreon.com/BartCollegeGraduate. My thanks to Billy Duncan, Dodepunker, Jacob, Kiera, Red, Ryan Ulrich, and the Panicked Monk, as well as my other Patreon supporters, whom I appreciate the most. Thank you so much for watching the video. Take care, and see ya!